Do we need permits? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Here is another episode of Real Estate Stories. Today, we're going to share a little anecdote with you about the importance or not the importance of permits for homes. Mason, always good to see you, baby.
Hi.
So Mason had an incident, not an incident, I shouldn't say that. Mason was servicing a client recently and a question came up. Tell us that story. I think people will be interested to hear this.
The client's looking in a specific neighborhood. Can I say the type of neighborhood or am I not allowed to?
Well, it's an active adult community and they're pretty familiar with it.
And they're very familiar with it. And some of the upstairs of those houses are finished and some are not. Some are basically built out and some are not. And her concern is the ones that are built out that she tends to have an inkling towards were permits pulled when that work was done. So that's where we're at.
Right. So this particular buyer is looking for a very specific model in an active adult neighborhood here. And she knows that model, which has attic space, sometimes it's finished usable space and sometimes it's really just unfinished and storage, right? Yeah. And her big question was after, I think she virtually toured it with you, right? Or she did physically tour online. Yeah. Oh, she looked online. So her question to you was, hey, this house might be the right fit for me. Was this space finished with permits? And then it brings up like a secondary question, which is more of just curiosity. Could have been finished by the builder when it was built, right?
Yeah.
Or finished after the fact, after some owner along the way owned this house. So what was her big concern about that?
She doesn't want to have to deal with anything post-closing. So she thinks if it wasn't built with permits, that she's going to be responsible, of course, post-closing if something comes up.
No, she's not wrong. And that could totally be. And depending on the town and lots of circumstances, sometimes that does become a buyer's problem later, when they're going to sell the house, especially some things do come up. That's true. So what did you guys do, or what did she do to try to satisfy this concern? Because let's just kind of side note, it's common for an agent not to know this answer. And this, if I remember correctly, is an estate sale. And the person representing the estate doesn't know anything like that. And they're just not aware, right? So the seller is deceased. So the seller may or may not have even had knowledge of that anyway, depending on how long they've owned the property. So what did she do to try to remedy this in her mind?
Contact the HOA. The HOA was no help.
Okay.
Basically said, call the township. She called the township. She put in like a request to get a list of all the permits that have ever been opened at the property. And that takes about a week to get back to.
Yeah. So that's called, and we do that sometimes, and it's usually not that tough to do. It used to be tough to do. It's not so tough anymore. It's the Oprah request, not Oprah Winfrey, Oprah, Open Public Records Act, which means that anybody can go to the township, and usually you could actually do it online, and order whatever is public record, ask for that to be pulled. You can be specific or not so specific about what you're looking for. If it's public record, which most real estate stuff is, she has a right to, anybody actually has a right to take a look at that. And pretty common, it could take a few days to a few weeks, depending on the town, to pull that information. Depending on how much has gone on with that house since day one, that could be a pretty big file, right?
Yeah.
And it could be tricky to interpret some of it too, especially if they give her like original building plans and stuff like that. But it can also be really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially when you have concerns. Now, there's no right or wrong in how to approach this, but our concern when we were talking about it was this could take a week or two. And she likes this house, right? We were having this conversation recently, and this client likes this house. We don't want to see her lose this house just because of this timeline. So you can always get creative. So the suggestion was, if you like the house and that's your primary concern, the attic space, how about making an offer contingent on obtaining satisfactory information about the finished space, right?
Yeah.
That would seem reasonable, because you never know. Like, things are not selling as quickly now as they were 6 months ago or a year ago. However, that neighborhood's a pretty hot neighborhood, and you never know. There are still a lot of homes that are getting multiple offers in a very short period of time. So, sometimes you have to kind of think outside the box and say, well, okay, if I like this house and that's my main concern, well, what if I made an offer contingent on satisfactory documentation that everything is on the up and up, no pun
Yeah.
intended, with the attic, right?
Yeah.
So I know you made that suggestion to her. Long story short, she's not pursuing the property, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing too, interestingly, every town's a little different regarding the certificate of occupancy, right? So that particular town, we don't think they look at permits. However, there are a lot of towns that when the property is going to change ownership during the course of a real estate transaction or the throes of a real estate transaction, and a certificate of occupancy is ordered, and we have videos about certificate of occupancy. Take a look, guys. They will check not only for open permits, like permits that were open but never closed, but they will check for physical changes to the house and then cross-check the permit files to see, oh, here's a new heater. That heater looks like it was put in 3 years ago. Let's see if we have a permit for a new heater from about 3 years ago. And if they don't, and if these things don't match, then it becomes a seller's responsibility to get a contractor to kind of retroactively handle some paperwork. So it's usually not that big of a deal to handle it. Some towns are tougher than others, but there are some safety checks in place for that kind of stuff too, depending on the town. But
Yeah.
and then we didn't talk about this, but like things change so over time. So I think like in the last several years, New Jersey stopped requiring permits for roof replacement, shingles,
Townhouses.
only on townhouses.
On townhouses.
It's like crazy, right? So like those little things, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to misstate anything, right? But there are so things also change over time regarding what requires a permit, what doesn't, what type of contractor can pull a particular permit. So there's always a lot to know, and it's ever evolving. The bottom line is if you're looking to purchase a house and you have concerns about certain things, lean on your real estate professional, because a real estate professional should be able to give you the proper guidance and coaching, and figure out where we can find those answers to help put your mind at ease as you make the biggest purchase of your life.
Yeah.
Right. All right, guys. Once again, thank you for joining us. Please like this video, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. If you're looking for a real estate agent in Southern New Jersey, our contact information is below. If you're looking for a real estate agent anywhere in the United States, reach out to us anyway, and we can introduce you to some like-minded professionals. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.